Good evening, everybody. My name is Ann Thompson. I am the Assistant Director for Public Services at the Essex Library, and it's my honor to welcome you tonight to an author talk with Mike Urban, Unique Eats and Eateries of Connecticut. I have just a few housekeeping rules, but it looks like you all are taking care of this on your own. I'm not sure I even need to say anything. If you please keep your microphones muted and your cameras off, we'll preserve that very valuable bandwidth for our recording. And I have launched a poll, which you may see, I'm launching a poll right now, which you will see on your screens. If you'll let me know how many of you are in attendance at your place, then I can give accurate statistics to the Connecticut State Library at the end of the year, which they ask us for. And accuracy is very important to them. And so while you're responding to that, I can let you know that Mike Urban, our author speaker tonight, is an award-winning food and travel writer and the author of 4 books on New England cuisine: Clam Shacks, Lobster Shacks, the New England Diner Cookbook, and the New England Seafood Markets Cookbook. He is a regular writer for Yankee Magazine, contributing more than 25 food articles over the past 6 years. Mike and I were checking it. This is his 3rd talk with us, and they just get more and more delicious, as you'll see when he's done with his presentation. If you'll save your questions for the end, go ahead and please feel free to type them into the chat as you think of them, but we'll get to all of them at the end of Mike's presentation. And so with that, I'm going to close the poll. Thank you very much for giving me your answers. And we'll get that out of there. And I am going to share my screen to start Mike's show. And we're off and running, Mike.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for tuning in to this program. Thanks, Anne, for the very nice introduction. With regard to this book, this is my 5th book on New England cuisine. This book gave me a chance to do a deep dive on Connecticut, my adopted home state for the last 30 years. I learned a lot on this, had a lot of fun. But this book was almost 2 years in the making, primarily, of course, because of the pandemic. I signed up to do the book in 2019, December, and was merrily researching away until mid-March of 2020, when things really started getting kind of dark. And my wife and sister-in-law and I were out at Staropolska, a great Polish restaurant in New Britain, and the owners there, husband and wife team, seemed pretty worried. And I asked them, and sure enough, I said, "What do you think is going to happen?" They had no idea. And that following Monday, all the restaurants closed, temporarily, of course, but they all shut down, as you know, for a month or 2. So anyway, with the publisher, we decided to push the schedule out about 10 months. And so instead of coming out in the fall of 2020, the book came out this fall, obviously. In the book, there are 85 places. These places, most of them are mom and pop joints. They are what I like to refer to as organically unique places. That is, they're not the product of a marketing firm or a restaurant group or PR activity. These are genuine places that are started usually by an individual or a couple or a family, and places that really thrive, that have a lot of character, a lot of uniqueness, and the kinds of places I like to eat and many, many other people like to eat at as well. Now, keep in mind, this is not a collection of the best restaurants in Connecticut. It's a collection of, again, what I consider to be the most interesting, the most unique, the most unusual, which is a sort of a different animal altogether. As Anne mentioned, I've done 4 books on New England before. This one's giving me a good chance to drill down on Connecticut and learn a lot of stuff. There's going to be about 100 slides. You're going to hear me say next a lot because that'll be Anne's cue to move the thing forward. I'm technologically too inept to do it here from my own computer. But so thank you, Anne, in advance for doing that. So anyway, and we're also going to do sort of like a road trip around the state. We're going to go county to county, look at different things. But before we do that, I want to introduce to you the notion of food groups, the food pyramid. You're probably familiar with the different things that are in the pyramid: fruits, vegetables, grains, meat, fish, other items. In Connecticut, the food pyramid consists of 3 things. Next. Anne. There we go. Hot buttered lobster rolls. Next. steamed cheeseburgers, and next, New Haven style pizzas. These are the three dishes or cuisines that are very unique to Connecticut and that really give a lot of character and distinguishing characteristics to the type of food that we have around here. So next, let's start in Fairfield County down by New York. Next, we're just going to go through restaurants and just take quick looks at some of these places and go right on through. Antojos, yes, okay, this is good right here. Antojos is a Colombian restaurant in the northern part of Norwalk. Norwalk obviously has Sono, a very fancy restaurant area down near the waterfront in the downtown area. This is up north of downtown by about 2-3 miles, just a little cafe kind of place that's long and narrow on the inside. Next, and it has a lot of characteristic Colombian cuisine. Here you see a fried plantain in the front. They have rice and beans. Fried eggs are often served over the tops of dishes. Some grilled chicken here and what do you call these things? Banana, excuse me, a corn cake over there in the upper right-hand corner. It's a great place to get an introduction to Colombian cuisine. There's a burgeoning population, Latino population in the city of Norwalk, many of them Colombians and Venezuelans. There are several restaurants that serve their type of cuisine. They're great places to go and just see what this is all about, and it's wonderful stuff. Next. Bloodroot. This was a surprise to me. This is in Bridgeport, and it's as you can see from the sign, it's a feminist restaurant and bookstore. It's been around since the 1970s, owned and run by two septuagenarian women who are obviously feminists and vegetarian/vegan diners, and run this wonderful place where all this home, made food, wonderful stuff, all meat-free, all in many cases animal product free. Next. Here's a sample. It's a simply simple looking salad. They take a lot of some very interesting, locally grown materials, all sorts of different things. They bake their own bread every day. It's fantastic. There's a little feminist bookstore in the back of that shack you saw there. And also next, they have this beautiful patio outside with this willow tree that in fair weather, of course, you can sit out here and look out over harbor waters and backwaters of Bridgeport there. And it's down this little dead end street. It's a very quiet, very homey place. The dining room has a lot of mismatched antique tables and black and white photographs of famous feminists on the walls. Just a very interesting, different place that, to me anyway, it was a total surprise that it was in the city of Bridgeport, the biggest city in the state. Next. Okay, over in Danbury, Goulash Place. This is owned by a Hungarian emigre who opened this place in the mid-1980s. That house to the left, looming over the top of the little place, is the owner's house. This is in a totally residential neighborhood. So there's house, and all of a sudden this little restaurant just sitting on the corner. It used to be a butcher shop apparently, and the current owner bought it, turned it into a little restaurant. Next. And it has all the look and feel of a little Eastern European neighborhood restaurant. The checkered tablecloths, the beer, the wine, the home cooked food. Next. Here's the sampler platter, which I had when I was there, with some Wiener Schnitzel, some roast pork, veg, potatoes, usual, fairly heavy, flavorful Eastern European cuisine, but a really just interesting, cool place. You wouldn't expect to find in a neighborhood full of just houses, going on for blocks and blocks. Next. Okay, in North Stamford, just off the Merritt Parkway, the Lakeside Diner is an interesting little spot that, again, has been around for about 30 years, owned by a husband and wife team. Next, one of the interesting reasons it's called Lakeside is because on the other side, within a stone's throw of the parkway, is this beautiful little pond over here where waterfowls usually periodically swimming around out there. They alight here, ducks, migrating birds stop in here. And you can sit here and have your diner food and look out the window. Their best dishes, their most famous dishes are their pancakes, red, white, and blue pancakes, which feature a variety of the fruits. And next, their donuts. They have cinnamon sugar donuts that they're very well famed for. They've been making these things for years. A lot of locals just come in, grab a bag of donuts and take off. But a real cool little spot that's, again, just right off the Merritt Parkway. If you happen to be in North Stamford and you have a hankering for something to eat or a cup of coffee or a slice of pie, this is the place I would recommend. Next. Back over to Danbury, minus CARNE. This is a Brazilian cafeteria style restaurant that next. Obviously does a lot of roasting of meats, beef in particular, just like a lot of South American places do. Here you can see a lot of beef and chicken, and those yellow things there are cored pineapples grilling over the flames here, the open flames. And what they do is you go into this cafeteria style place, you can get salad, you can get greens, you can get rice, you can get beans. Tell them how much meat you want. They slice it right there on the counter in front of you. And next, you end up with a nice little plate of food like this. You know, a lot of it is carry out, but they do have seating for about 30 or 40 people. A very cheerful place. It's about a block and a half west of Western Connecticut State University. So they get a lot of students on weekends, but mostly it's local Brazilian, emigres who dine here, and with food with which they are very familiar. Next. Litchfield Hills. This is the northwestern part of Connecticut, of course. You know, kind of a Tony area. A lot of Yorkers have second homes up there. Very nice, sedate, some very nice high-end places. It's the home of the Mayflower Inn, you know, one of the nicest, poshest resorts in the country. It's also home to next Bohemian Pizza. This funny little shack that's in Bantam, just outside of the town of Litchfield, where you have this, you know, sort of weathered shack, these surfboards, these fake palm trees, Christmas lights. You think, well, what is this? It caught my attention, and I went inside, and here's what I saw. Next, this crazy, funky, fun interior with this canoe hanging from the ceiling, and you know, these leather skin booths. That fireplace is a two-sided fireplace, so it burns out both sides. You know, it looks like some, you know, teenage kids, you know, rec room from the 1970s with all these album covers stapled to the ceiling. And go to the next one. Booths like this, very comfortable. Again, the, you know, chief, mostly 70s stuff, you know, spread out through. A lot of local stuff. And I can next vouch for their pizza. They do a New England style pizza. This is a margarita pie that I had there one time when I was visiting. Very good. It's a very cozy, fun place. They have fish tanks built into the walls. It's just a real unusual thing, something you wouldn't expect to find in sort of the more sedate Litchfield County, which is a very, you know, as I said, rural, you know, somewhat upscale part of Connecticut. Next. Okay, Dottie's Diner. This is in Woodbury. Woodbury is the antiques capital of Connecticut. Lots and lots of antique shops and dealers in the area. Dory Sperry, who owns the place, has owned it for the last 15 years, used to work at the Mayflower Inn in the culinary area. She bought this diner and carried on from the Phillips family, carried on many of the Phillips family traditions, including next, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, chicken pot pie, and next, their most famous offering, donuts. Dottie's Donuts are known all over the place. Michael Stern, the co-author of Road Food, the seminal book on New England, not New England, but regional American cuisine, considers these to be one of, if not the best place in America to go for donuts. They're wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and they're baked fresh every day. Again, people come in, they go up the front counter, just grab a bunch of donuts to take off. But the food is extraordinary, and it's open, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Most diners aren't open for dinner these days. Most are just breakfast and lunch places. But well worth a stop if you happen to be out Woodbury way. Next. Okay, the Winstead Diner in the small town of Winstead is an old Tierney diner. It was manufactured in the 1930s and plopped down on the spot here at a rakish angle on Main Street. It has this funny little hot dog guy standing out in front. And when you go inside, next, it has a lot of its original features. You know, the tile, the stools, the counter, the barreled ceiling, the grill behind the counter, and it's virtually impossible to have a private conversation in this place. It's, you know, very popular with the townies and the locals, and when you go in, you're going to hear anything anybody else is saying, and they're going to hear what you're saying. But it's a very convivial atmosphere. Food is good, you know, but it's just one of these really kind of cool places to stop in and enjoy yourself, have either breakfast or a lunch. Next. The capital region, okay, Hartford County, basically northern and north central rather, of Connecticut. Next. First up here is Blackie's, one of the best places, one of the two best places in my opinion for hot dogs in Connecticut. Blackie's has been around since the 1940s. It's in Cheshire, right on the Waterbury border. Say that 5 times real fast. Next. And when you order hot dogs here, and there's a gentleman behind the counter, one of the co-owners, you just walk in, you yell 1 or 2 or 3, or how many you think you want to have, and they get to cooking them. And when they cook them, they do something very unusual. Next, they boil them in hot oil until the casings crack open. And then they just put them on buns, hand them back to you, and you can put what you want to on there. On the left, they have their homemade stone ground mustard. On the right, their most famous condiment, which is their hot pepper relish. When they first opened Blackie's they were doing gasoline and hot dogs back in the day. These peppers grew on a hill in back of the building, and they would harvest these peppers, and they came up with this recipe for this hot pepper relish. Now they make one batch every year in the spring, and when it's out, they're done for the year, and they wait till the next spring to do another batch. But it's very popular stuff. They also sell it in jars. But just a real cool place. And if you're on the hot dogs, crisped up a little bit, want them on the griddle, just say, want them well done. Give me one well done. They'll throw it on there, roll it around for you, and you're all set to go. Next. Lily's Soul Food. This is in Windsor, just a little ways north of Hartford. And it started out as a husband and wife team. They started out as caterers. They still do a little bit of catering, I think, but they went more over onto the restaurant side. And they also, like MINAS CARNE, have a short, small, cafeteria style serving thing where you go in and they have heaps and heaps of wonderful Southern comfort food. Next. And they serve it up in these sort of plastic containers, like a meat and 2 or meat and 3, as they would say in the South. Here, this time when I went there, I had their barbecued ribs, their black-eyed peas, their collard greens, the cornbread. They have great fried chicken, wonderful sweet potato pie for dessert, sweet tea. Just a real great place to get soul food, Southern comfort food. And again, because it has this lid on the top, it's great because it's virtually impossible to finish what they serve you. The servings are very generous. And you point at what you want, and they just dish it in there, and you're off and running. Next, Pho 501. This is East Hartford, across the river from the capital. The story behind this place is a Vietnamese gentleman who emigrated in the late 80s, early 90s, got a job as a cook in what used to be a sort of breakfast place where this building is now. And he was making omelets, but he also would throw in some of his Vietnamese cooking from time to time, and that became more popular than the regular breakfast fare. He eventually bought the restaurant, excuse me, and he was off and running. He makes this wonderful pho, which is a Vietnamese noodle soup, in case you're not familiar with it. Next, he also commissioned to be on the side of the building, on the brick side of the building there, somebody painted basically his life story. There he is on the left-hand side. He started out as a motorcycle delivery guy in Saigon, came back, emigrated to the United States. His wife is featured here, his dogs, some of his favorite things in his life, scenes from the old country. And if you can see in the lower right-hand corner there, it says, never forget your roots. That's repeated throughout the restaurant in a lot of places. But he's really known for the soup that he makes that's out of this world. It's really basically about the only dish that they make there. Next. Here's an example. Here is their shrimp pho, and all the broths for all the different types of pho that they make simmer on stovetops for at least 24 hours. And this is a small place. It's not very big. They have 1 or 2 little stoves back there, maybe 3 or 4 people working there, but the flavor and the food is extraordinary. Next. Okay, Shady Glen. This is quite a famous place. As it says, they have sandwiches, ice cream, and they serve breakfast, which I've never had there before. But really kind of a cool place. Again, started in the 1940s. Next, it's not one of these bobby socks and poodle skirts places, that's kind of done up by a restaurant group and made. This is the real deal. This is the way these people, these employees have dressed, since the place opened back in the day. The waitresses all wear, white aprons and smocks, and they just go at it. Look at that order board, the menu in the background with those little curved letters you put in there. You don't see that very much anymore. Next. This is their most famous dish. It's called the winged cheeseburger. And what they do is they take 2 or 3 slices of American cheese, lay them on the griddle, crisp them up like this, get them turned in a wing type formation like this, pop that on the bottom bun, put the burger on top with a little more cheese and top it off the top bun, and you're set to go. Really interesting. Again, this has made them nationally famous. They're in many burger competitions, and they've been doing this for decades. Next. And of course, their ice cream is out of this world. You know, you saw maybe a milkshake in that last slide. Wonderful thing to have, accompanied to have with a burger or any of their other, you know, hot dogs and deep fried seafood as well. But the sundaes and ice cream, you know, for instance, right now they're serving a lot of pumpkin ice cream. The peppermint ice cream is popular at Christmas time, and they have all the seasonal different stuff throughout the year, different flavors. And they make all their own ice cream as well. That's a, sort of an offshoot from the UConn dairy school once upon a time. Next. Tangier's International Market. I was just speaking with Ann about this a little just before we got on the air here today. This is a market in west part of Hartford. It used to be in West Hartford, the suburb, and one of the rare ones that moved from suburb back to city. Next. It's basically, as it says, a specialty shop, has lots of Middle Eastern foods of different sorts, bottled, canned, fresh, frozen, and it's a delight just to go in here and see all the different things they have. If you look over in the right-hand corner there, you'll see a gentleman in a black smock. It's one of 4 Lebanese brothers who own the place. They got it from their parents, who started it about 20 years ago. And at that sandwich bar, you can get what I consider to be the best falafel sandwich in the state. Next. Here it is, you know, with fried chickpeas, hummus, you know, fresh veg, all wrapped up in a pita type bread, and it's just absolutely wonderful. And it's, you know, you can get these things to go. There's a few stools back there that during COVID they had to block off, of course, but I think they're back to seating people there. But just a great place to go do some shopping if you do any Middle Eastern cooking or if you're a fan of that type of food. Next. Yale Country, New Haven County. Okay, getting a little bit closer to where we are in Essex. Next. Donahue's Clam Castle. This is one of the classic clam shacks in Connecticut. It was always a clam castle. The Donahue family, which owns the restaurant by the same name, next door, bought the clam castle several years ago, and they've done a great job of keeping it going strong, going nice. And of course, it's known for its deep fried seafood. Here's a basket full of fried whole belly clams, which is one of their specialties, along with a great lobster roll and wonderful fish and chips as well, and clam strips. Great place for deep fried seafood. Next. Okay, on the vegan side, once again, Jizen. This is a nationally regarded restaurant, vegan, vegetarian restaurant, owned by a husband and wife team that started as a food truck about 15, 20 years ago. And they were known particularly for their sweet potato fries. They would fry up sweet potatoes, and you know, they had a massive following of people. They bought this house in the north end of downtown Brantford, or eastern end of downtown Brantford rather, on a little rise overlooking the downtown area. And they've just been cranking out this incredible vegan food for quite a long time now. They claim that about 80% of their clientele are not vegetarians. These are people who just like the food so much they keep coming back. They enjoy it that much. Next. Okay, this is their vegan nacho plate, which, you know, is modest looking, but really good stuff. And they're always just doing all sorts of interesting things, you know, with non-meat product. The couple also recently bought a farm in Durham where they're starting to grow as much of their own produce and ingredients for their dishes as they can. Next. Okay, North Haven, over to the Italian side of things here. Liuzzi's is a renowned Italian sort of gourmet food shop, delicatessen. No grown men have been known to weep when they come in here. People who were raised in the New York area, Brooklyn, Bronx, and places like that, saying, "I haven't seen food like this since I was a kid." You know, it just has all sorts of incredible Italian imported foods. Wonderful deli section, great cheeses. Next. All sorts of really wonderfully, they make their own mozzarella. They're known for that. It's sold all over the state. Homemade mozzarella cheese. Here you see some Parma hams hanging here. Prepared food sections. They have a whole butcher section as well. Just a great spot to go, you know, especially around the holidays, to get your Italian delicacies in time for the festivities. Next. Okay, on Long Wharf Drive, parallel to I-95, you've probably seen and hopefully have visited the food carts that are out there, the food trucks. There are usually a couple dozen to 30 at any particular time in the summer, and even throughout the winter, there's always 3 or 4 or 5 lingering down there. It's mostly Mexican and Central American food, and some Caribbean places. Puerto Rican trucks are there. There's one hot dog truck, I think, one barbecue truck, but just a great place to go down and sample all these different foods. A lot of them, you know, are again Next, the usual stuff, soft shell tacos here, burritos, and up in the upper left-hand corner is a Mexican Coke, which is Coca-Cola only sweetened with cane sugar, not with granulated sugar like we have here in the U.S. A little bit different taste, but Latinos love it, and it's just a fun place to go from cart to cart and try different things. Churros for dessert, great sugary pastries and things like that. Next, Louis' Lunch. This, you may or may not know, is supposedly the birthplace of the hamburger. It's been disputed, but they have a very unique way of cooking their burgers. It's very small on the inside, very dark, very long established place on the streets of New Haven. Next, they have a very unique way of cooking their burgers, putting them in these vertical broiler like baskets, and they put them in this vertical broiler gas thing from the early 1900s. Cook them to medium rare. This is fresh ground meat every day, and the only thing they serve it on toasted white bread. The only thing they put in their burgers are fresh sliced tomatoes, fresh onions. There is no ketchup. Don't ask for ketchup. Don't even bring up the subject of ketchup. They will not be happy with you if you do. Just one of the rules they play by. Very interesting, different place. And Yale's have been going there for years. They've carved their initials in all the old wooden booths that are in there, and there aren't many. There's like 2 or 3, and that's about it. Next. Okay, up in Waterbury, which to my surprise, I didn't realize that was part of New Haven County. There are a ton of wonderful Italian restaurants serving classic Italian cuisine, but there's also Sultan's Palace here, which is on I-84 right across from a mosque, serving wonderful Turkish food decorated in this light blue and white motif with murals of Istanbul and the Bosporus on the walls, and just great stuff to eat. A very kebab heavy menu. Next. And wonderful, cold appetizers like this, these different dips, baba ganoush and hummus and others that you slather on fresh baked Turkish bread. Just a very nice, warm experience. And when you go, see if you can go on Saturday nights, because they have belly dancing on Saturday nights. And I had to call it off for COVID for a while, but I called a couple of weeks ago and verified that, in fact, belly dancing is back. Next. Okay, steamed cheeseburgers, the second food group we have in Connecticut. Ted's Restaurant. This is in Meriden, sort of ground zero for steamed cheeseburgers in Connecticut. There are several places in Meriden that serve steamed cheeseburgers, and it's really pretty much just a central Connecticut phenomenon. You don't really see it anyplace else in the state or really in the country. Next. The way they cook these steamed cheeseburgers is they have these big metal boxes, okay? And beneath the boxes, you can see some gas heating up these other boxes that are filled with water that create the steam. On the right-hand side, they have the burger boxes where they take chunks of fresh ground beef and put them in little square metal boxes, throw them in there for about 5 or 6 minutes, more like 10 minutes. Steam them up, the juices drip away from the meat. They think that's better for you. On the left-hand side is where they put the cheese. It's a cheddar type cheese, also goes in these metal boxes. And when they're both done, they remove these little boxes, which are about 2 inches square each, and they put the cheese on top of the burger. Next. And you get this kind of gooey, messy, fun, yummy burger. It's not to everybody's taste, but they are quite good. I think it's definitely worth a try if you haven't had one before. Ted's is the place to go. O'Rourke's Diner, which we'll be visiting shortly, also does a great in Middletown, does great steamed cheeseburgers. Next. And perhaps the most unusual place, the most unique place in Connecticut and in the book is The Place in Guilford. You're probably familiar with this. You sit outside, open air only. You sit on tree stumps at these red painted tables. Everyone has fresh flowers on it. All the food is cooked over a 19-foot long wood-fed fire pit where they cook all different kinds of things, mostly seafood, but some other things as well. But let's take a look at their specialty they're best known for. Next is their clams, their fire roasted clams with their special sauce on there. They cook these things, the shells pop open, they slather the sauce on, cook them a little while longer. They also do fire roasted lobster, fire roasted fish fillets wrapped up in aluminum foil. They'll do steaks on there straight on the grill over these big, licking flames, and wonderful corn on the cob where they soak them in the husks and then roast them over the fire for 2 or 3 minutes, take them off, dip them in a big vat of butter, and off you go. Next. Okay, before we leave New Haven County, just a quick promenade through probably the five most famous pizza places. Pepe's, next. Sally's, next. Modern Abbott's, next. Roseland Abbott's in Derby. This is our white clam pizza. Most of these places have white clam pies, and that's one of the most unique and distinctive things about this pizza type. And finally, next, Zapardi's in West Haven, which I heard just opened a carryout place somewhere. I think it might be Shelton or something like that. But anyway, all great places, all great, wonderful spots to check out. New Haven style of beats. Next, the Connecticut River Valley. Okay, now we're in our home turf here, I guess. Okay, next. First up, Bill Seafood and the famous Singing Bridge. If you're not familiar with the Singing Bridge, this is the steel grade bridge over the Patchogue Creek, Patchogue River, and when you drive over it, it makes a zzz, sort of humming sound, hence the name Singing Bridge. But a great place in the summertime in particular to sit outside here, at these tables in the sun, have lots of deep fried seafood. Next, which is their specialty. Here's a basket full of clam strips. They also have wonderful fish and chips and whole belly clams, other goods on that deck in the summertime. They have a lot of bands playing, especially on the weekends, can get pretty rowdy, pretty crazy, but people really enjoy it. The liquor flows freely. It's a year-round place, so there's also a good-sized building, adjacent to the deck there, where again, they also have music on weekends. And jazz bands, I think, on Monday nights or something like that. But a good, all-around, wonderful, place to go for seafood and other stuff. Next, the Blue Oar. This is up the Connecticut River in Haddam. Tucked into the woods here, along next to a marina. It's kind of a tough place to find, but definitely worth seeking out. Has these nice decks, multi-level decks, and colorfully painted picnic tables. It's a BYO, bring your own, alcohol place. Good cooking, decent cooking, not great in my opinion. Good burgers, stuff like that. But the one dish I found that I like next goes against the grain of what I usually go for, and this is a tangerine salad, which is very nice and refreshing. But it's just a great place to go sit out there, especially in the evenings. Probably better to go on weekdays in the summertime because it's very crowded on weekends. It's very popular. But just sit there and watch the boat traffic kind of go by, and the bird, the wildlife, and everything going on out there. It's just a very serene, pretty sort of place on the Connecticut River. Next. And Essex, here we go. There's a pat on the back for you folks. This is the Essex Shad Bake. It's the only event that I have in the book. Everything else is an establishment, but this is run by the Essex Rotary Club. The first Saturday every June, except for the last couple of years because of COVID, they roast all this shad down by the Connecticut River Museum over next to an open fire. Shad is an anadromous fish, which spends most of its life at sea and then does its spawning swimming upstream, up rivers along the New England coast in particular, and the Connecticut River in particular. A lot of shad fishermen go out and pull these guys in, and then for this event, is again just a one-day thing. Rotary Club prepares all his fish. Next, here's what they do. They take the fillets, they nail them to boards, wooden boards with roofing nails and strips of salt pork to add flavor. They season them all up, put the boards as you saw them before all set up there, cook them up, give everybody a plate of shad, some fresh potato salad, a glass of wine, a slice of apple pie, or whatever pie they happen to be making that year. And it's a fun thing to do. The fish has 200 bones in it, so they're very hard to fillet, and it's becoming a lost art. But they have demonstrations and stuff like this. You can walk around the grounds while they're doing this. It's just a real cool thing to check out if you haven't before. Next. Okay, I don't have too many fancy upscale restaurants in the book, but one of them I really felt compelled to put in is Grano Arso, a relatively new place in Chester in the beautiful old bank building on Main Street. Joel and Lanny Gargano are just doing a great job. He hand grinds all his local pasta grains in the kitchen there, cooks up amazing Italian stuff. In the last, next, this picture doesn't really do it justice, but here's a dish of pasta with a meat sauce. Joel and Lanny had only been in business for about a year and a half when the Connecticut Restaurant Association named Grano Arso the best restaurant in Connecticut. in the year, I believe must have been 2019, just before the pandemic hit. But anyway, next. Okay, in Old Saybrook, neighboring Saybrook here, Himalaya Cafe. This is what I like to refer to as like a beatnik Indian restaurant. You go inside, there's couches, there's pillows, you know, very comfortable place. There's sort of this little bar with 3 or 4 seats around it. You can watch this sort of hunky, muscular Indian guy behind there who's it's a family-owned place and lovely people. Who's cooking back there in the tandoor oven and on stove tops, and you can just watch this going on. You could sit out on one of the couches or whatever, one of the few tables they have. They also run Bollywood movies and screen them, put them on the wall there, and plain white painted wall periodically. Next. And they have, I won't show you all the different types of cuisine, but here's these little things you nibble on when you first arrive. That's a mango lasso drink in the background there on the right, which is a favorite of my sister-in-law's, and the wine, of course, for me on the left. Next, Lobster Landing, become a famous place. This is in Clinton, down by the Clinton docks, Clinton Harbor, this sort of dilapidated shed. They keep the O, tilted O like that on purpose like that. Wonderful place, full of character, and probably the best place to get a hot buttered lobster roll in the state, ergo anywhere in the country. Bacci, the Italian owner, sort of stoop-shouldered guy who's got like a big bushy beard and always has a bandana on his head, full of life, going around talking to everybody, hugging customers. He's a wonderful personality. And he's also developed a really wonderful recipe for his hot buttered lobster rolls. He gets as much local lobster as he can. He hand picks it in that little shed there, which his staff does, which is unusual. Most places have their lobsters picked at seafood processing houses. This makes it that much fresher. He poaches the lobster meat for a brief period of time in seawater. Then he gets these Italian sub rolls, which he found in Vermont and which he's very loyal to, toasts those up on a charcoal grill, and then puts in the lobster meat, squirts over some butter, a little spritz of lemon, and you're all set to go. Next. This is what they look like. They're wonderful, very, very tasty. And, again, generally considered to be the best hot buttered lobster roll in the state, if anywhere. Next. O'Rourke's Diner, previously mentioned this. Brian O'Rourke has been doing a great job here for 45 years. I think he bought it from his uncle. He started working here when he was a kid. This is in Middletown at the end of Main Street, down by the big cathedral, just before you get on the Aragoni Bridge. He has been doing all sorts of interesting things. A lot of his food has Irish inflections. It's a standard diner menu. Next. But here's an example, his Irish soda bread French toast. These has 3 different types of jams on them, homemade jams. He's very big on, harvesting local fruits and things like that. And you have some clotted cream at the top of this. He does a great omelet, all sorts of other things coming out of there. And every day he's doing something different in the kitchen, depending on what kind of ingredients he finds in there. He'll bring samples out to people, let people try stuff. He listens to what people like and don't like, just a real character. And he's done a great job there. He's very tight with the Wesleyan community. In 2006, his steamed cheeseburger machine was accidentally left on at night and the place burned down. O'Rourke's burned to the ground in 2006, but the Wesleyan community, the Middletown community, they raised about $300,000 or $400,000 that gave toward reopening the place, helped them out. That's how much he has endeared himself to his local community. And that's really the classic mom and pop, unique kind of place that I would look for to include in this book. Next. TAINO Smokehouse is also in Middletown, about a mile outside of downtown. This is a wonderful barbecue place, a little bit different, in my opinion, than most of the other barbecue places you find in the state. It's attached to the side of an Ace Hardware store in a odd location, but it's really, really good. The restaurant inside is quite small, but on the outside there's this huge patio, wonderful patio, all with tree shades and all kinds of wonderful old wood carved tables and stuff like that. And you can just sit out there and smell the wonderful barbecue smells wafting out of the smokers, which are sort of under a tent on the side of the building there. It's a great experience. Next. This is an unusual dish they have there, the barbecued egg roll. What the hell is that? Well, it's got mashed potatoes, it's got mac and cheese in it, some pulled chicken, some red bell pepper, and a very unusual yet very popular dish. I have enjoyed it a couple times very much. Next. Taste of China. This is in Clinton on the Post Road, a very, very good Italian excuse me, Italian Chinese restaurant. The story behind this is a couple. He's from Madison. She was from the Sichuan region of China. Met in Indonesia while they were studying together, and they eventually got married, came to the United States. And she couldn't find any good Chinese food. So she bamboozled her husband into buying a restaurant with her, and they took over a place, this building here, and just totally transformed the menu into something more than just the usual Cantonese fare. Pretty spicy stuff in many cases. Next. Here's a Szechuan beef appetizer, lovely brown sauce and veg over the top, a lot of different seeds, flavors in it. It's just a really good, wonderful place for all different kinds of Chinese foods that you perhaps haven't experienced before are offered up. Jacques Pepin eats here on a regular basis, I'm told. I haven't seen him there yet, but I hope to someday. But just a great spot to go to for Chinese food that's a little bit different from what you normally get here or anyplace else, really. Next. Yukon territory. All right, let's explore the northeastern part of the state, Tolland County. Next. Ryan's Deli. This is an interesting place. This is in Vernon, about 10, 12 miles east of Hartford, on just off I-84. And a gentleman by the last name of Ryan was a New Yorker who got transferred, probably an insurance job, up to Hartford, claimed he couldn't find a good corned beef sandwich. So he opened his own deli. And it was small at first, but it's ballooned into a major, landmark place. I know a lot of people who travel back and forth between Boston and New York. When they go on I-84, they have to stop at Range, particularly my Jewish friends, because it's that authentic. It's really good. You go inside, the different sections of the restaurant are named after the various boroughs of New York. Next. And they have a real authentic, Jewish deli counter here where you got everything. You have all the incredible sandwiches you can get. They have smoked fish, all the things you expect to see in any good, New York deli in any of the boroughs of Gotham. Next. Had a wonderful brisket there one day with a matzo ball and some coleslaw. The menu, like all good delis, is about 24 pages long. Tons of stuff to choose from. Next. And every good deli has to have bagels. They do about 4 or 5 or 6 different types of bagels every day at Rains. But it's just unusual that it's out there, but very well known and a destination deli in New England. Next. Also on I-84, before you cross over into Massachusetts in the northeastern part of the state, here you come across this yellow-roofed restaurant with this sign, Traveler Food and Books. What does that mean? Well, go inside and you'll see what is in store. Next. Come in, a sort of plain looking restaurant, nice tables, clean, good food, but there are books all over the place. What's this all about? Well, here's the deal. You go there, you eat, and you pay your check, and you take 1 free book, any book you want from the place. Sometimes 2, sometimes 3 if they have an overstock. It's just this big used book emporium where they give books to their customers. Customers bring books in and drop them off, things that they've read. They have a used bookstore in the basement with thousands and thousands of books that you can buy at very reasonable prices. Food is good, standard breakfast and lunch fare, some deep fried seafood as well. And this is up in the northeastern corner of the state. Famous authors like John Updike have been known to stop here and give talks, in years past. But just a real cool concept that's been going on for 30 or 40 years. Again, a married couple bought this place and kept the concept going. And it's just, they have, more books than I know what to do with, and a great place to go for bibliophiles and others as well. Next. UConn Dairy Bar. This is a well-known place on the UConn campus and stores. Luckily for us, it's open to the public. Wonderful ice cream. You can sort of see them serving it up, year-round, of course. And there are windows, big picture windows on the inside where you can see part of the dairy and ice cream making process is going on. I don't think the actual milking of cows, but I think you can see all the machinery that they use to pasteurize and do everything else they need to. Next. Here's a little modest offering of the thing there. I think the day I was there and took this picture, I probably had too much to eat someplace else. So I, just had a little something here, but great place to stop for ice cream any time of the year. And again, the public is welcome. Next. The Quiet Corner, Windham County. Okay, this is up in the extreme northeast part where there are some very unusual things. Next. For instance, Frog Rock Rest Stop. This is a place off of
Highway 44 between Providence and Hartford. Back in the late 1800s, a state senator from Eastford, where this is located, would ride probably in a horse and buggy into Hartford for periodic Senate meetings, Senate sessions, and he would go past this rock, and for some reason he thought it looked like a frog, and he commissioned somebody to paint it to look like a frog. And the tradition has continued over the years. It's been repainted several times. Looks this big thing, and then it's just a pull off of the highway. It's just a picnic area. But about 25 or 30 years ago, next, some entrepreneur thought, well, let's put a snack stand here, just casual food people can have who didn't bring their own food with them. They also have a little antique store and a little stage where on weekends folk musicians perform. So it's this cool little place where you can take the family. There's picnic tables out there. It's just a relaxing place, a pull off from the road, and that's about it. Next. Okay, in Willimantic, you have a Willimantic Brewing Company here in the old, beautiful old post office building on Main Street. This is the old lobby area where you would transact your postal business with postal employees. It's been made into a 40-foot long bar. This is, when you think about microbreweries, they're all over the place now, and that's a good thing. But this is the one sort of kind of got it all started quite a while back. It's the biggest, probably the oldest, and one of the most generous in the sense that the owner brings in other local brews from other, his competitors, and he features them, he sells them. Just a beautiful place. The big main, mail sorting room, which has a 30-foot high ceiling, is now the main dining room. It's gorgeous. The old postmaster's office is now a private dining room. Next. And they serve such bar fare as chili, like you see here. Nachos is one of their most famous dishes. And excuse me, next. The thing really to go there for is the beer. There's all different sorts and types. They're always brewing 5 or 6 different types right there down in the basement, and in a brewery room they have right next to the dining room there. We can see some of the activity going on. Just a real cool place if you haven't been to Willimantic. Next. Okay, Zip's Diner. This is off I-395, but there was no I-395 when they first built this thing. This is another one of these outposts on the highway between Hartford and Providence. It's a classic 1950s Jerry O'Mahony diner, owned by a Greek-American family, serving typical diner fare. Next. And typical is corned beef hash here, and scrambled eggs, home fries, toast. A real nice place with that big iconic "Eat" sign on top, which you can see from I-395. It lights up at night. It's gorgeous. It's a landmark. Just a classic diner experience. Sort of you think, what is this thing doing in the middle of nowhere? Well, it used to be on a main road between, like I said, those cities, also between Boston and New York. People like Joe DiMaggio have eaten there. Carl Yastrzemski, Liberace apparently ate there once. So it's not that far off the beaten path. Next. Mystic Country. Okay, this is the last county. Hang in there, everybody. Okay, this is New London County, of course, the southeastern part of the state. Next. First place where I could stop, because it is autumn, is B.F. Clyde's Cider Mill. I did not know this place existed until about a year and a half ago. It's this wonderful place about 2 or 3 miles inland from what you think of when you think of Mystic, all these restaurants and the bridge downtown and the Mystic River. This is up in the woods, excuse me. It's got the last steam-powered cider mill in the country, where they squeeze apples, local apples too, and more apples than I thought came from Eastern Connecticut. And next, you can, one of the best things to get when you're there are the fresh mulled cider and cider, apple cider donuts as well. They make all different types of apple products. There's this old Victorian building filled with all kinds of, apple stuff they make here, and a lot of other things from other places, pancake mixes, all kinds of syrups and things. And in the background there, you can see Clyde's tasting room. They also make a variety of hard ciders that you're welcome to try and buy in the season. It's only open from September 1st to December 1st. It's a total autumn experience. Next. Captain Scott's Lobster Dock. This is a great seafood shack in the shadow of downtown New London, on a thin strip of land between the Amtrak tracks between New York and Boston, and a marina on the other side. And they serve up great fish and chips, wonderful deep fried seafood. And next, hot and cold lobster roll. So you see a hot lobster roll on the left, cold lobster roll on the right. What a cold lobster roll is chilled lobster meat mixed with mayo, and in this case, a slice of a leaf of lettuce lying in the bed there. That's not always part of the picture, but it's just a wonderful place. They also have live bands there in the summertime. It's really hard to find. You just got to have the GPS switched on and have the address locked in. Otherwise, you could be driving through this little old abandoned warehouse district for a while trying to figure out where this place is. Next. Costello's Clam Shack. This is the sister shack to Abbott's Lobster in the Rough, where, of course, they serve lobster and lobster rolls. Costello's is the deep fried side of the business. And it has this wonderful sort of two-tiered, dining area overlooking beautiful Noank Harbor. Next. And this is a whole belly lobster roll. My God, they give you a lot there. Let me tell you, it's quite a place. And their famous shoestring potatoes. But again, between Abbott's and Costello's, it has all the seafood you could ever possibly want in New England. Next. Okay, here we have Flanders Fish Market. Started out in the 1980s. Paul Formica and his wife were driving along, and he looked at an abandoned house and said, that'd be a good place for a seafood market. Neither of them had any experience with seafood. They opened it. They did a phenomenally good job through the 80s. In the early 90s, they added a restaurant to it. So they still have on one part of the building this wonderful seafood market. And next, a restaurant attached to it was what I consider to be the best beer battered fish and chips I've probably ever had any place. Here's an example of it here. They also do a wonderful hot buttered lobster roll. This one's sort of tarted up with a lot of veg, very tasty. Paul's daughter, Olivia, is a Culinary Institute of America trained chef, and she's in the process of taking over the kitchen from her dad. But they do a wonderful job here with all their seafood, whether you eat it in-house or you buy it and you take it home. Next. It's the last one, gang. Ford's Lobster. This is over in Noank, not too far from Abbott's. And does anybody know what this is best known for? Perhaps you do. It is next, the lobster bomb. This is a bowl of bread hollowed out with lobster meat, about 3/4 pound of lobster meat stuffed on the inside, and a couple of ladles of lobster bisque over the top. And next, we've reached the finish line. Thank you very much. That's all I got to say today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike, so much. I'm glad I had a little something to eat before we started, because I don't know how I would feel having looked at all that wonderful, delicious food at this point if I didn't have, I haven't had anything to eat yet. So I hope everybody in the audience had eaten something too before we started. I don't even know where to begin. I understand why you wouldn't do a best of book, but what do you think overall your research with this? Do you see a pattern in new restaurants coming into Connecticut?
I don't know if you see some patterns. I mean, it's a restaurateur, it's a business. And so a lot of them are, and I don't mean to denigrate places that are, created by restaurant groups or marketing. I love places like that. But, what is particularly appealing to me are the ones that are sort of, like I said, organically unique, things that come from love, that come from people's ideas of what they like to cook. And, that to me just is a more interesting story than the other ones. But in terms of how restaurants are coming about today, there's a lot of more marketing research involved. They're data-driven decisions, and a lot of them have great food, and wonderful stuff. But that's sort of the wave of the future. You still have mom and pop places popping up, but it's incredibly expensive to open a restaurant. All the investment, it's a thin margin business financially. It's hard to make money at it. And you really got to love what you're doing, but there's power in numbers, so that's why if there's any trend, I'd say it's probably toward restaurant groups, bring in more restaurants, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it's as much of a story as the places that I've talked about today, but that's pretty much it.
Well, it's a wonderful overview of places that I know I would like to go to. Cindy has asked, "What's your favorite place?" The $1 million question.
I never answer that question because it's too hard to say, Cindy. Nice try. It's just one of those things where there are so many different types of restaurants that it's like, what's I could say that my favorite hot butter lobster roll is
is Lobster Landing, for instance. That I can do. And there are probably other ones that I could name off. Pizzas, and you and I were talking about this of the big three. Which is your favorite? I was saying recently, up until recently, Sally's had the edge, but my wife and I just moved to New Haven, and we're about a block and a half from Modern Beats, which I've always liked, but that might end up tipping the scales up toward that. Plus, Modern is the one that hasn't franchised yet. They haven't really gone out. Pepe's has a bunch of different outlets, and Sally's is just cracked open one in Stanford. And again, that's not a bad thing, but I just like the original places. I like the things, they're kind of on a small scale.
You bet. So Jim wants to know, how do you stay so thin eating all of that food?
Spanx. That's my pat answer. That I load it up all the time. It's I thank you for saying that, but what it is, I have a lot of bad habits, eating and drinking and stuff like that. But I walk 3 miles every day. I used to run 3 miles every day for many, many years, and I've done that religiously. That's one of the good habits that I have. And now I can't run anymore because I have a bad back at times. So I've switched to walking, but I just make sure I do it every day. And I do other things as well. We living in Saybrook, for 30 years, for 15 years, we heated the house with wood. So I cut up, 5 cords of wood every year. So remaining active, that's the only thing I could say. I can't say that I'm a healthy eater because I eat a lot of trash, but I love it. And it loves me back. It hasn't hurt me too bad yet. Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. And what about barbecue? Do you see barbecue being trending more in Connecticut restaurants? And will you write a book about it?
Yeah, there's more and more of it in Connecticut. Truth to tell, barbecue is not a New England thing. It's mostly a Southern thing, of course, a Midwestern thing. And it's only in recent years that it's found its way into New England. Excuse me. I did an article for Yankee about 5 years ago on the best barbecue places. They asked me to. And, I ran around and checked a lot of them out. And there are some really interesting, distinctive ones, but it's not something our region is really known for. I think there are some that are better than others, but a lot of them to me are sort of seem to be making the same kind of stuff from the same equipment in the same way. And it's not bad, but it's just, I look for like TAINO Smokehouse, which I mentioned before, I think is a pretty distinctive place, a little bit more different than a lot of the other ones. And I found some other places throughout New England, but, it's something that it's made its way here, particularly in the last 5 years. There's a lot of it. At this point, and it's good. It's all fine. It's just I try and find the most unique ones I can.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. TAINO's is a favorite of our families as well. So Sarah asks, as a more recent transplant to Connecticut, can you explain the etymology of the word a pizza?
I can't explain it real well, but what it is. It has its roots. And it's a sort of Neapolitan style pizza, Italian in origin in a way, but, New Haven put its own unique spin on it, where it's just this very thin crust pizza, very plain, nothing fancy. Usually it doesn't necessarily even have any red sauce, any tomato sauce on it. It has a little pecorino romano, some oregano, baked in the oven, like in a coal-fired brick oven is really one of the most trademark things about it. And it's unique to this part of the world. To really understand it, there's a great documentary called Pizza, a Love Story, an hour-and-a-half long movie that was made by somebody who was obviously a big fan of New Haven style pizza. And that sort of explains it as best as anybody has. But, that's it. You hear all this stuff about brick oven pizzas, but these coal-fired brick ovens that they have at these 3 places are just astoundingly different, and they put this burnt sort of crust, crispiness on the crust that's different, and people love this stuff. Frank Sinatra used to demand, anytime he played the East Coast, he would send his guys to go get Sally's pies, and he would have them for himself and for his entire entourage. It's just people get hooked on this stuff.
Wonderful. Barbara says that she went to school with Brian O'Rourke and has eaten at the diner. He is one of a kind with his dishes and hospitality. One lunch place in Middletown that no longer exists that served steamed cheeseburgers as well was Jack's Lunch.
Cool. I don't know. I'm not aware of it. Tell us about it if you can, if you're on, unless you're muted.
And do you want to unmute Barbara and tell us about?
It's a family restaurant. It was a small like the one narrow area with bar stools. My uncle ran it. My dad was his short order cook, only by under duress. But
Family restaurant. There you
they serve steamed cheeseburgers.
Great.
And it's been gone a long time. It's over 70 years ago that they were there, but I can remember my father telling me about it. So
it sounds like my kind of place. And you don't find that steamed cheeseburgers outside of central Connecticut, Middletown to Meriden to, I forget, it doesn't go much further west than Meriden.
Brian is one of a kind. He gets up at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning and rifles through cookbooks to see what he can cook for the day that's going to be different.
Well, he comes in, and he doesn't always necessarily know what's going to be in his, his refrigerators and in his larder when he shows up, and he just kind of looks at what he's got and he starts playing with it. And he does stuff, and he's very imaginative. He does some amazing things. He doesn't always get it right, but he's much more so than a lot of other people. When I was doing my New England Diner cookbook, he was loath to give me any recipes because he was doing his own cookbook at the time, Breakfast at O'Rourke's, which is a very nice book. Wesleyan University Press published it. But we finally went in there, I went in there one day afterwards and I said, so what do you want to do? He said, we're going to come to the kitchen here. We're going to make Urban's butternut squash. I said, you know somebody else named Urban? He goes, no, I'm going to make up this recipe and I'm naming it after you. And we went in the kitchen and he did this thing. I took pictures and took notes. It was a blast. It was fun. But he just does that stuff. He just, it just comes to him naturally.
And you never leave the place hungry. When you said that he walks around with samples, you don't even have to order breakfast after he gives you the samples.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
And he's baking bread in there all day long. Everybody starts to 2 or 3 little pieces of a small, just tastes of whatever loaves you bake in that day. Great spot.
Wonderful. Well, I don't know about everybody else in the audience, but I made some notes while you were talking here and there, just to bookmark places in your book. Mike, tell me, are there signed copies of your book at any bookstore?
RJ Julia's, one place that I have signed some is at RJ Julia. They should have some. If not, I'm happy. Anybody gets a book, I don't even contact me through the library, whatever. I'm happy to sign them. I'm around. I'd like to Saybrook, New Haven, but I'm in the area. Always traveling around, eating at restaurants and stuff. But please do pick up a copy. It's a lot of fun. The idea behind the book is just, it's browsable. I didn't, we decided not to put it in alphabetical order, just kind of mix them all up so you can just look through it and, you're going to recognize probably a lot of these places. But if there even like 2 or 3 that you've never heard of before that sound interesting and send you on a trip, and the other beauty is, Connecticut's not that big. You can get across the state in 2 hours easily, from one end to the other. It's just a fun way to check things out, spend a day or spend an evening or, an afternoon and go and try something new.
Right. Get to that cider mill before they close December 1st.
Yeah, right. We're getting close here now, aren't we? Yeah. Good spot.
Well, thank you, everybody. If that's all the questions we have, looks like, wait, Mike, thank you very much for bringing us on a whirlwind tour of Connecticut, county by county. And I testify, we're going to be eating some of those donuts this weekend, I think, among other things. I'm really looking forward to falafel and a number of those other restaurants as well. So thank you very much for giving us some places to go try out for new destinations. I'll keep a copy of the book in the car for whenever we go out. Thank you all for attending tonight. If you're still interested in more food talk, we've got Dory Greenspan and Priscilla Martell on Saturday at 4 o'clock. Please join us. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Care.
Good night.
Good night.